Now, if you're struggling with self-sabotage and you don't know where to start, here, right here on this podcast, we're building the community. I want to remind you, breaking self-sabotage patterns takes time. You've been operating like this for years, every decade, like I will. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate the small wins. We're building a community of people committed to breaking these cycles. And we have a special guest for you guys, Dr. David Marcus. He is a psychologist. He is a hero to people who are rearing children. And I would just like to introduce this man for just a moment, if you guys could give me a second. He's a Pennsylvania State graduate. He's published scientific documents. He's worked in psychology for 40 years. And he's a childhood trauma survivor. So you guys, I told y'all we was going to have some good information for you. And here it is in the form of Dr. David Marcus. Welcome to the show, Dr. David. Storm, would you like to ask the fine Dr.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. I do.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. What was your childhood? What was your childhood like? You know?
Well, there's a saying that nobody goes into mental health work without a reason. You know what I mean? And mine was because I had a childhood with very little emotional communication with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty much on my own. Even though I had siblings, we were all on our own, basically. It wasn't them. In hindsight, I actually thought my mother had a problem. She just could not relate to people. And my father was working a lot. I mean, he cared about us. He really, really did. But he was gone a lot. And and he had a hard time with my mother too. So he might have been gone a little more than he had to be, that kind of thing. But
yes.
So I grew up, and I was a short kid, heavy kid, and not very much status, I couldn't run fast and stuff. I was smart enough, but, and there was bullying involved and I had nobody to turn to. And so you grow up, you go away to college and you finally have to learn some social skills, you know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yes.
That was a tough period, at least my freshman year was. So I took up, I was a psychology major, but what I basically did was borrow my roommate's guitar and taught myself how to play the guitar.
Oh,
and,
wow.
I still do. In fact, I have a CD out of Irish music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
yes.
I play the guitar, the mandolin, something called a tenor banjo, an octave mandolin, which is great big mandolin. And I play in different bands, and that's my therapy. That's my therapy.
Wow. Yeah, music can be a therapy to many people. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when did you realize that traditional parenting tools was failing families?
But what becomes more typically we parent the way we were evident to me. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. What we took in from our parents, but what becomes almost automatic, what became more evident to me is what we took in from our parents. That was almost automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead, Alfonso.
Oh, no problem. Go ahead. Continue.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Alfonso. Sometimes I'm getting that echo again. Okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Sometimes I'm getting that echo again. Let me try that again. I'm still getting it. Let me try
Technical
that again.
difficulties, folks.
I don't think it's. I'm still getting it.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Yes.
I don't
Learning
think
the
it's.
curve.
You're not echoing, Michelle.
Yes.
I am echoing here.
Good. You're
You're not
echoing
echoing, Michelle.
because I do not have noise cancellation
I
on, and I'm
am
trying.
echoing here.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
oh
Yeah,
well.
well, it just goes on. You can continue to talk, you know, Mr.
Well,
Marcus. You
okay,
can, yeah. Mm-hmm.
okay. That's fine. Call me Dave. Call me Dr. Marcus. Call me. Just don't call me late for dinner. Whatever. But okay. Sometimes trauma happens so early in life that we don't have the words for it
Mm-hmm.
before we're even verbal. But that doesn't mean it doesn't get in there. What I learned from talking with adults actually over 40 years is when they tell you their story. I hope this is being recorded. It looks like it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. The people would come and say to me their story. They say, "This is why I'm coming in."
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, they would sit there and go, tell me something and say, "I don't know why I feel this way, but I do." Or, "I know what I should do, but I can't do it for some reason." Or a big one is they'll tell me something and say, "Does that sound normal to you, Dr. Marcus?" And the reason for all of
Yeah.
those is because they don't have the words. They feel it, but they can't explain it. So it's very hard to deal with something without using your mind. I mean, all you're doing is reacting at that point, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So a very wise supervisor of mine, I didn't go to Pennsylvania University. I went to the University of Louisville for my doctorate. But a very good supervisor of mine, he was the head of this clinic that I was working at. He once asked me, you know, uh, David, what is therapy? And I rolled my eyes, saying, "Okay, here we go. What am I supposed to say to this big shot psychiatrist? But I said, well, it's to help people. I went into the usual spiel, and he just shook his head at me and he said, no, no, David, therapy begins where the words run out. And that's true if you think about it. If people could explain everything in a nice, logical fashion to themselves, for therapists, whatever, a counselor, they wouldn't need them. It would just be, okay, I get it. And I'll figure out what to do about it. So a lot of the work that I've done with adults is finding the words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that helps parents sometimes because they're reacting to their children through these unspoken things, these unverbal things. We parent the way we were taught to parent. No one sat down and taught us how to parent. We just take it in. It's a process called internalization, if you want the official term for it. All right. And
Okay.
internalization is sort of like almost subconscious learning. You're not aware that it's getting in there, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that children internalize through, experiences with their parents is how to react to stress. Okay. So if a parent gets really angry and aggressive, then their kids will be angry and aggressive when they're stressed, you see? And this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why abuse follows generations sometimes. I mean, a child who is abused, who grows up and has their own children, will swear to you up and down and sideways that they would never do to their children what happened to them. But in moments of, unanticipated stress, and children are great at hitting us with unanticipated stress, they'll
Yes.
regress. That's what it's called. They regress back to these old patterns and they'll hit. And then it becomes a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other things that you can internalize. And that's what my book is about. My book is called Parent RX, Parent Prescription, because the term that I use to help parents with this is a soothing presence. How do you become a soothing presence for your partner as well as for your children? All right. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a very important concept. You can notice in its simplest form, a soothing presence is easy to guess. It's simply somebody who's okay when you're not okay. If you think about the people that you may turn to when you're upset about something, there's usually specific people, friends or family, and invariably those people are okay when you're not. They really are. And so what we do is sort of borrow their okayness for a while. When we get from in here where it's intense, our intense emotions, out here in the soothing presence who's okay with it, we can kind of get what I call a safe emotional distance from it. We back away from it, and now we can look at it and maybe figure out what's going on and what to do about it. And that's a process. I call it the empty, the filled up phenomenon. I can't say the word. Phenomenon. Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you. And then the emptying out process, which
Mm-hmm.
is different than catharsis that I have to explain, because everybody says, oh, that's just catharsis, getting things off your chest. No, there's more to it than that. All right. And we can get into that, but I'm trying to just talk about trauma and how it affects, people,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and this, once people seem to realize where they regress to when they're stressed, they begin to realize, hey, it's not the other person's fault that we're arguing. It's tapping into something within me that makes me not responsive. All right. And that really helps couples. It really, really does. And it helps parents be better for their children. I need to explain this. I use the term a soothing presence rather than a soothing person. And there's a
Yes.
purpose to that. The purpose is this: you can't be a soothing presence if your whole world is chaotic. You're always just putting out the next fire or you're under stress all the time. You need to create a soothing environment. That's the soothing presence. All right. It's not just you, it's what you need as well.
Mm-hmm.
I tell parents often, the best gift you can give to your children is to be okay yourself, because your children need you to be okay. And if you're not, well, let me explain. Children, it's not just something they want. They really need their parents to be okay. I mean, children are exquisitely in touch with their parents' feelings. If you pick up an infant and you're tense, they'll cry. You see what I'm saying? So you can try to hide it all from your kids, but you're not going to be able to really hide it
Mm-mm.
very well.
You're not
So,
coming to the studio, or you're not.
I talk to people
What are
about
you doing?
lifestyle. It's much harder today than it was 20, 25 years ago because of social media, because of computers, because of cell phones. We can't get any distance. We can't get any personal space.
This is not going according to
In
plan.
the old days, you'd come home from the office and you'd leave the work at the office,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't do that now because there's a computer, you got a deadline tomorrow. And meanwhile, your children need you to be present for them and soothe them. We expect a young child, not to be able to soothe himself, hence temper tantrums. You know what I mean? They experience their emotions very intensely. We all know this. Any parent knows this. But how do we get them to? How can we people teach them to internalize a soothing presence so they can soothe themselves? You see what's going on now. In children, that's called resilience. When a child can soothe himself and deal with situations, that's resilience. What people need to realize also is that if the child is resilient and can be able to speak what's going on and have a soothing presence, and they can take that in and can soothe themselves, well, in adulthood, that's called stress tolerance. And that's a very important part of maturation, So trauma can get in the way of that. In a trauma situation where parents, let's say a high conflict couple, all right,
Hmm.
Well, they're too busy just dealing with their own stuff and what's going on between them and their partner to really focus on what the children need, you know? And so the children need their parents to be okay. I mean, young kids will, their parents are yelling at each other. They'll go upstairs and shut the door. They just can't tolerate the tension. As they get a little older, 6, you know, they take on a role. And this is the dangerous part for children in a traumatic situation. It's like this. They'll take on the role of pleaser, you know. They'll try to please their parents to hope that they won't argue anymore. Or the appeaser, that's another one. They'll try to appease the situation, you know. Sometimes the mediator or the placater, anything to get their parents to stop with all the tension in the house. All right.
Yeah, I done did that.
Was it?
Yeah, I did
I'm
that
sorry.
in my younger years, when I was growing up in
Um,
my elementary days,
mm,
because my mom worked 11 to 7, and I wanted her to be there. So, I was struggling. I was a struggling reader. And so
mhm,
I said, I had a teacher, and she was a Caucasian lady, and she was like, she took me outside and she said, "How bad do you want to upgrade your reading?" No, I took her outside. Can I talk to you? And I said, "I want to upgrade my reading level. I don't want to stay below. I want to get on my reading level, and I want to get up higher." So
mhm,
she helped me. And I feel like by me pushing myself and showing my mom, look, elevating, I don't want to stay down here. I want to
mhm,
go and be up here. So I started I started doing stuff, extra stuff in class, when everybody was going to lunch or going to recess, I was staying in the class so that I could elevate up here and not stay, below everybody down here. So I was trying to please my mom to show her, hey, look, I'm doing this, hey, take off, come, come see me get recognized. But I look out in the
mhm.
audience and she's not there.
And it's sad.
Hmm.
I'm sure it didn't make you happy, you know.
Mm-mm.
Children need that recognition. It's okay. Everything I'm going to be talking about is going to require parents to be able to attend to their children.
Hmm.
You know, how are you going to be a soothing presence if you're not attending to your children? Right? I didn't
Yes.
get it. And that's why I made it sort of my purpose in life to advocate for children so they can get it, even in high conflict situations. I've been involved with custody situations and, those types of things. Kids are getting destroyed, you know? And so I've gone to court as an expert witness to advocate for these kids. Sometimes I have to, find Aunt Emily to take them or something like, you know what I mean? Just something so
Hmm.
these children have a chance, you know? It's true. If we get into a conversation about self-esteem, that you you need parents to attend to you. Just in your own
Yes.
situation, what you just described is a perfect example of it. There are two types of experiences that, oh, hi, Alfonso. There are two types of experiences that first form and then maintain self esteem. One is the mirroring experience. And that's what you were talking about. You just needed your mom to say, gee, you're doing a great job, right? Just to
Yeah.
recognize, acknowledge the work that you were doing to improve yourself, you know?
Hmm.
And you do that enough. I mean, you think about it. The 3-year-old's finger painting goes up on the refrigerator, the first trophy, the first report card, all these things. What do children do with them? Look what I did, mommy. Look what I did, daddy. And maybe you can
Hmm.
picture this, especially with the picture. They hold a picture in front of their chest like this and say, look what I did. And the next thing they do is look at your face. Always look at your face. What are they looking for? Well, I call it the gleam in your eye. It could be the biggest mess of a finger painting, but gee, that's great. And you stick it up on the refrigerator. Well, you repeat that all through childhood, like I said, with the report card, whatever achievement it might be, the child internalizes that. And that is the basis of what we commonly call confidence, which is part of self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
The other part, which you haven't mentioned yet, but in my case, and probably in your case, because your mom worked all the time, it's the same thing, is called a merger experience. Or if you want the psychobabble term, merger with the idealized other. How about, isn't that cool? Merger with the
Oh
idealized
wow,
other.
that's other.
Are you impressed?
Yes.
And what that is that children learn at an early age, usually just when they're finally ambulatory and can move away from you, that you're bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, and better at everything than they are. And they want to be able to do that, but they can't. So one thing they do is through play. They'll play at being a mommy, they'll play at being a daddy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously they can't actually take on the rigors of adult roles, father, mother, fireman, whatever it might be, but they can through the buffer of fantasy, which is the play space, which is their imagination. All right. The other thing, which is the self-esteem part, which comes from the parents, is there's a merger experience. This is the little boy who pushes the toy mower when dad's mowing the lawn. The little girl who's helping with Thanksgiving dinner. They want to be part of it because it gives them a sense that I can do this stuff too. And that gets taken in as well. And that is the basis of what we call competence. I feel competent. And those two internalized experiences of yourself, I guess you'd say,
Yeah.
confidence and competence, that's self-esteem. All right.
Mm.
We never outgrow, by the way, we don't outgrow the need for these experiences. All right. To maintain them, for instance, the mirroring experience in adult life would be your job evaluation. And we're very sensitive about it, what our evaluation
Yes.
says.
Very.
You see? The adult version of a merger experience would be a mentor. Your teacher was a mentor. She didn't do the work for you, but if she was pleased with you, you felt really good about yourself.
Yes.
That's a mentor. So you are fortunate to have her. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Children need this stuff. It's not a matter of wanting it. They need it. And if your parents aren't present this way as a soothing presence, like I said, I talk to them about family circumstances for this reason, You can't work 24/7 and expect to be available to your children. You know what I mean? The best example is the type A personality who works and slaves 60 hours a week to provide support for their family, with support being defined as, look at this wonderful lifestyle I've provided for you because we have more money. Meanwhile, the kids and the partner back home are saying, where are you? We need you here.
Yes.
I don't understand. Look at the support. Well, how do you define the word support? And this is sometimes what I have to do with couples, because they'll define words like support, companionship, sometimes even intimacy differently. And so they're not pleasing one another. They're not meeting each other's needs for these things because they're defining them differently.
Yes.
Here again, we're finding the words sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the therapy part of what we're talking about here, all right? But parents, if they can establish this with young children, my book is really more toward young children, although I talk about high conflict.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about teenagers as well, of course. But the earlier you start with this, the healthier your children will be. All right? You need to be okay yourself, and you need to be able to be okay for your kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be okay with yourself and with your children, because even I found myself doing the same, not exactly how my mom did, but I found out, like you said, Miriam, you the same thing that your parents did, you kind of like, and you want to break it. And I did break the cycle somewhat because I couldn't show up for every award ceremony, but I was trying to take off and be there, here, there, and
Yeah.
show that I wanted to be there. And I did try to not just be really absent, if they had a function at
Sure.
school, be there. So my oldest daughter played the viola. So every recital that she had,
It's a beautiful
I was
instrument, by the way.
I was
Go ahead.
there. Yeah, she
Uh,
played from the 6th grade to the 12th grade.
for her.
And so for every recital she had, me and her father was a part of that, and we was there, to represent, to show that we
Mm,
cared and we was gonna be there. And when he could no longer show up, he kind of like she had a half sibling, so he sent the sibling to show up to take pictures, to record,
oh,
and
okay.
because he was like, I'm a farmer, I'm trying to be there. But the last show, the last recital, the final shebang shabil, he showed up and he showed out, you know.
Great. Good.
Hmm.
Good. This is. I explain to parents. I'm not sure what to call you to tell you the truth. You have a pseudonym, but what's your pseudonym again? I'm sorry.
Oh, Storm.
Storm,
Yes,
because I'm seeing your
yeah,
real name down there, and Alfonso
yes,
said you rather use the word, the name Storm.
Storm.
Okay,
But no, you can
forgive
call,
me.
if you want to, you can call me Michelle. I'm fine,
Okay,
Yes, so it
okay,
won't be so
okay.
confusing. Yeah.
Yeah, I see your name and I'll forget Storm, and it gets
That's okay.
embarrassing. But
That's
okay,
fine. No, it's fine. It's just fine.
okay. Thank you, thank you.
Uh-huh.
No, but I explain to parents. There's a big misconception here that I always have to deal with. I don't like the term attention because it
Mm-hmm.
implies negative intention. Attention, excuse me. So the child, okay, this is what happens. So let me just explain it, make it simpler.
Yes.
What I say to parents is, look, there's a difference between something that you want and something that you need. And I use a simple example. You may want, oh, I don't know, a new van, let's say. But I don't have the money right now, so I'll save up for another few months and maybe then I'll be able to buy a new
Let's
van.
try this away.
Mm-hmm.
Something you want. Something you need is like basic needs, Michelle: air,
Mm-hmm.
food, and water.
Yeah.
Now, what happens to these needs if they're not met? If you don't have air for 3 minutes, can you just put it off until you can afford the next breath of air?
No, you'll be
No.
deceased, unalive.
2 days for water, 3 days for food. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
No,
You
these needs.
starving the
So
body.
it's not something you want; it's something you need. If you don't have
Need.
air for 3 minutes, that need's going to intensify to the point where all you can think about is that next breath of air or that next drink of water. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I explain this to parents because I explain to them that emotional needs work the same way. If they're not met, they intensify. A child needs to be attended to for self esteem reasons, for developing an emotional language, for developing resilience, all the things we've already talked about. And if they don't get it, that need will increase. And how do they show that? Because they don't have the words for it yet. They behave, they act out, you see, and they get more visible and more visible, sometimes more obnoxious, just whatever they need to get their parents to attend to them, right? So
Yes.
they'll do, look, even negative responses are better than no responses, all right? So what happens, here's the misconception. That people go back to psychology 101, behavior modification. Well, I don't want to reinforce this negative behavior that they're showing, so I'll punish it or I'll ignore it, right?
Yes.
Negative, a negative response to negative behavior. And the lesson that is assumed is that they're going to, quote unquote, learn their lesson and not do that anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to tell you, Michelle, that if that worked, if all behavior was that simple, all emotions were that simple, I'd be out of a job. I mean, it would be so simple to raise children and understand the world, but that doesn't happen that way.
Yeah. It's not working. Yes.
It, we're not built that way. Most of the associations in our mind are emotional, not logical. Okay, they really, really are. We react to things. We're human, which is why I talk about a soothing presence rather than a soothing person. You can't do it without having an environment that supports it. You know? So What happens? You ignore it, you punish it. Does that take care of the need? No,
No.
it just intensifies more. And now what
Yeah.
happens is, okay, you're, with a tween or so, okay, you're not grounded for 2 days, you're grounded for 4, right? Now they'll learn their lesson. Well, that just makes you less available. And, the lesson isn't, I did something wrong. The lesson is my mom's a jerk. My dad is mean. And if it's a teenager, they're trying to treat me like a child by telling me what I can and cannot do. I'll show them they can't do that. So the lesson is totally lost. You see, I mean, it doesn't work, like you said earlier. It just does not work. All right.
Yeah.
The
I
develop,
had a
yeah,
cousin. Yeah, I had a cousin like that. I would, my kids were very structured and she had come out of unstructured settings. So I had a cousin and I tried to do her, like you say, different behavior patterns. It don't work that way. Like you said, you'll be out of a job. And no matter what I did to say, hey, if you don't do this, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna do that. It just seemed like it just escalated. It didn't bring it down,
yeah,
it didn't bring it under, it just escalated. And now
yes.
that you're explaining it, now I understand why she did the things that she did.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think one day as a grown up, I didn't even know that I was kind of like not escalating her, not taking it above a notch. She had done something. I say, hey, you know, you can't, you doing these things, but for me, can you just get back on your medicine? Can you just get back on your medicine? I say, can you, get back on your medicine so that you can apply for your social security, your SSI. Because if you're not taking your medicine, then they're not gonna, give you what you should want out of the situation. And trust it or not, believe it or not, because of the way I came at her at a different level. And I didn't say, well, because you're not doing this, because you're not doing, I didn't come at her on the other level. I just say, hey, for me, she did it. She went back on her medicine. She got her benefits back, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was happy about it because it really, I was like, I'm proud of you. But because of the what I did, like, would you just do this for me, And I took a different approach. I didn't try to, beat her up about not doing this or not doing it. I just said, can you do it for me?
How old was she, by the way, when you did this?
She's she's at the time that I did it, she was 24, 25 when I talked to her. Now she's 28.
Yeah, Alfonso, yeah. Anyway, the reason I ask is because when children hit adolescence, we're getting that echo again, Alfonso. Children at that age, their perception of themselves changes. They see themselves as an emerging adult, which is
Hmm.
true. Sometime between the ages of 12 and 19, they have to become adult, which means they have to make well-advised decisions. Now, adolescents don't typically do that, but if you do this the correct way and help them to think through their hard experiences and come up with a resolution to it, that's resilience. Remember, that's what it's called. If you
Yes.
do that, they can handle things like peer pressure. They can handle, and you've also made it safe for them to talk to you about it and be able to soothe them. You see what I'm saying? So it
Hmm.
fits with what you're saying. What you did was rather than treat her like a child, like I said, once they hit teenage years, they don't want to hear from you. I mean, they don't want to, say, hey, look, I raised my son and I remember that.
Hmm.
And, but if you treat them like, hey, I'm approaching you almost like an adult, do this for me, we're on equal ground. That makes them, the one thing that adolescents and young adults want to be seen as is adults.
Hmm.
Like that they're valid as an adult. And that's what you did. You
Hmm.
said, do it for me. So you were actually empowering her. to use a word. Hey, yeah, that feels a lot better than, hey, you're messing up, do this. Now you're treating them like a kid again because you're telling them what to do. It's a tightrope we walk with emerging
Yes.
adults. It really, really is. The interesting thing is when my son was a teenager, we'd have our little clashes too, of course, because he was a teenager and I was his dad. And when I would give him advice that he did not want or did not ask for, he would do the typical thing. He'd roll his eyes like this and then dad's talking again, that type of thing. When he went away to college and he established himself as his own person, basically, he'd come home and of course I'm his dad, so I'd volunteer this advice because I'm his dad, and even though I know better, but okay. And he wouldn't roll his eyes anymore. He'd go like this. He'd go, okay. Mm-hmm. And I knew exactly what he was thinking. Let the old man talk. I got this covered, And I'd laugh because I knew exactly what he was doing, And we'd laugh, But I'm his dad, so, you volunteer the information. But okay, I'm human too, He's my son. I want to, the ironic thing is it would be so much easier to be a parent if your kids could actually benefit from your experience. And we do this a lot with kids. Oh, I went through this too, and I got through it by doing it. Sort of like misery loves company, and take my advice and you'll feel better, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. The
No, it don't
example
work.
the
It don't work.
example I give. Go ahead.
No, it don't work. It don't work at all.
Well, it's funny, we do this. Our intention is good. Don't get me wrong. We're just trying to help. But it doesn't help. I mean, dad tells his 15-year-old son, look, don't go out and drink 12 beers. I did that when I was your age, and I ended up with my head in a toilet bowl. Don't do it, right?
Yeah.
What does his son do?
They
He
go
goes
out and
out and
do
drinks
it.
15 beers, ends up with his head in a toilet, and dad says, I told you that was going to happen. You can bet your bottom dollar that grandpa told dad the same thing. We learn from our own experiences. Your job as a parent with an emerging adult is to help them to learn from their experiences. Because when you learn from your own experiences and can figure out what to do next, we have a common word for that, Michelle. It's called wisdom. Your child has gained wisdom. And that's a lifelong process. We're always thinking about gaining wisdom, learning from our experiences. You've got to be a soothing presence. You've got to be someone they can talk to and talk it through, get that safe emotional distance from it so they can reason with it. You see, it fits
Yes.
together like this. And the earlier you start, the better it is. When people come to me when their child is 15, 16 years old, not a child anymore, by that time, oftentimes the teenager says, I give up on my parents. And they'll turn to their friends or, fortunately, children have a capacity, and it's called elasticity. Okay. And what elasticity is if I can't get my emotional needs met from one source, I can transfer it to another source, like your teacher, you transfer
Mm-hmm.
it. We can do that. And this is one reason why children really don't have much of a problem having two moms or two dads in a blended family. The problem comes in is when the parents don't call that woman your mom, I'm your mom. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the child wants to please the parent, but how do they please the parent? They can't talk to them about, hey, I had a good time with my stepmom because mom's going to get upset. And again, children need their parents to be okay. So here's a child having to keep secrets. And children are not good at keeping secrets. It makes them really uncomfortable, young children especially, And this is where I come in when I do like custody work and things like this, because they're afraid to talk to either of their parents. But I have ways to I become their soothing presence for a while, and they can talk to me, and then I can talk to the parents. And if I have to, I'll talk to the court. You know what I mean? Because these kids need an advocate. They need an advocate because especially in a custody situation. Side A is going to say one thing, side B is going to say the exact opposite. And what's the court supposed to do with that? They don't know. Well, they need people like myself or other counselors to really explore the situation and come up with recommendations based on reality, not just on what one side's saying and the other side is saying. So these evaluations are very exhaustive. You talk to teachers and babysitters and relatives and friends. You do some testing. You do a lot of interviewing. It's a big process, but it's a necessary process because you need it to be complete. You really need to get a grasp of the situation. So that's what I used to do, but it was stressful work, to tell you the truth. And I'm old now, Michelle. I mean, I let somebody else do that,
Yes.
because I did
Yes.
my share. I did 20 years of it. Okay,
Yeah,
you
you
do
say,
it.
yeah, I did it. I'm done.
I did my part, and let somebody else take over now. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I learned a lot from it. A lot of the stuff I'm teaching today, and what I'm talking about, at least today, and what I teach in the book, and people who consult with me, et cetera, and one of the patients that I see, is about this stuff. And there's one other thing that I really should talk about because it gets in the way so much. Can I keep going? Is that okay?
Yes, yes, that's fine. Yes.
Okay, okay. I don't. If you have
Mm-hmm.
any questions or comments, please shut me up
Oh,
because.
you're answering the questions. Yes, you're asking them.
Okay,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
okay. Well, interrupt me if I'm long-winded. I enjoy doing these things, and I can go off on a tear, and I appreciate your patience with me.
Yes.
Okay, there's a phenomenon that I call being filled up. All right,
Mm-hmm.
what do I mean by that? And here's how I explain it. We all have an emotional space within us. It's not a real
Mm-hmm.
space; it's a psychological space. And when we think about our emotions, we usually point to our heart, but actually, it's associations in our mind, obviously. And this space can get filled up. And what fills it up is intense emotion. Anxiety, fear, anger, the typical intense emotion. In fact, in little children, it can even be intense glee when they get this little toy and, it's the intensity of the emotion that fills us up. And what I talk to people about, and sharing with you, excuse me, is what happens when we get filled up. Well, we know when we're filled up. It feels intense. It feels uncomfortable. Sometimes it's scary because we don't really understand why we're feeling something so intensely. Some of those pre-verbal things that we talked about, for instance. And so what do we do? Well, as human beings, we focus inwardly and try to deal with how we're feeling. Now, we may try to get it off our chest with a soothing presence or a friend. We may journal. We may go for a run just to get out the energy, watch TV and distract ourselves, go play golf, do something. But the point I'm trying to make is when we are filled up, we're focused inwardly. So by definition, we're not focused outwardly on what people are saying to us. The best example I can think of is what is typically called a blinding rage. Have you ever heard that term, a blinding rage?
No.
Someone is so angry that they're virtually blind to everything going on around them. You can give the most calm, logical explanation for why they shouldn't be so upset. They won't hear it. They'll hear maybe that 5% that somehow supports how they feel. And they may get angrier or more, whatever it may be, or your tone of voice that they didn't like, whatever it might be. And the person who's trying to explain things just goes, it's like talking to a brick wall. And this is where the walls build up between people, right? You see, in fact, we know when we're filled up. We absolutely know. We even have phrases that describe it. Like, I've had it up to here.
Yeah.
The straw that broke the camel's back. We know this is going on. How do we deal with it? You see what I mean? And until
Yeah.
we deal with it, we're pretty much blind to what's going on around us, right? So the implication is a person needs to be emptied out of this before they can even hear any sort of logic about the situation. That's where the soothing presence comes in again. And how you empty somebody out. Like I said, it's not just getting it off your chest. All right. Would you like me to explain what I'm talking about here too? But I wanted to
Okay.
make sure your audience understood that that's what's typically going on. And that's what builds walls between people. And if you
Mm-hmm.
react to your children with that kind of defensive anger or whatever it might be, you know, the child will pick that up and
Yeah.
it's not safe for them to talk to you anymore. You see? So, what do I mean by emptying out? This is all in the book, and I give examples of it. Parent says, child says, parent says, child says. And I annotate it saying, this is what you're accomplishing. I get very specific with the wording, which I can't get into here in this podcast. But yeah, how you phrase things, how you frame them is very important at different ages to
Mm-hmm.
empty somebody. All right. So what I mean is this, where it's different than catharsis or just getting it off your chest is that emptying out occurs on three different levels
Mm.
of emotional intensity. I'll put it that
Yes.
way. And I use a simple example to really explain what I mean. Okay, the most superficial level is the here and now. And we have lots of words to describe what's going on here and now. Well, the garbage needs to be taken out. Now, we can explain why the garbage needs to be taken out. It's your job. The garbage man comes tomorrow. It's beginning to smell. We have lots of words to easily explain this. The next deeper level where more of the intensity comes from is the history level. This is the sixth time I've asked you to take out the garbage and you haven't done it. Now, obviously, the asking is going to be more of a demand. It's going to be more intense. But if you were a stranger who just walked in and didn't understand the history, you might turn to that person and say, well, what are you making such a big deal about it? So they didn't take out the garbage. See, the logic begins to break down at that point. You don't understand the history. The deepest level is what I term the tapped into level. This one can go anywhere. The fact that you didn't take out the garbage after I asked you to do it 6 times means you don't listen to me. I
Yes.
hate when people don't listen to me. When I was at home, you know, I was always trying to get my mom's attention, but she wouldn't listen to me, and I hated that. This
Mm-hmm.
one can go anywhere in your history, right? And when you get into that tapped into level, the reason I use that term is because you may not even have the words to describe it's being tapped into, like I explained
Wow.
earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is deep stuff, and so all those levels have to be emptied out. For instance, the here and now is right there. I mean, you don't have to, that's present. The history level comes when you hear people say, you always do this, so you never do that. Now they're referring to previous events. Or you can even elicit and say, has that ever happened before? Okay. And the tapped into level is what is it like when when yeah, when you're not listened to. And that can relate to all these other things. Okay. Oh, I hate it when that happens. Well, explain the word hate, because my definition is not your definition. And that's where parents get confused. The idea is to get them to say it, use their words. It's called a common emotional language, which we probably won't have time to talk about how to develop that right now. But that's what's necessary, all right? So that you're talking on the same level, just like you talked about earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's once they're emptied out and you mirror back what you heard. Well, I hear this, and this has happened before, and this is how it's made you feel, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Do I get it? Yes, you get it. Now, what have you accomplished? A, you've emptied them out. The other thing you have done, even though you're not realizing it, is another word that we typically use, and it's called respect. You have shown this person respect. You see, you've heard them out. You say, no wonder you feel that way based on how you see it. Now, you may see it a different way, but based on how you see it, no wonder. And here's where the wording gets important, Michelle. Based on how you see it, no wonder you see it the way you do. Now, I may see it differently. When you hit your brother, it's my job to make sure that you're both safe. So I can't have you hitting each other. But now he can hear you because You heard him out. You've emptied him out. You've respected his emotions, even if you don't approve of his behavior, but you respected his emotions, and you've made it possible for him to get it from in here to out here in your soothing presence. You keep repeating this over and over again. They internalize it, stress tolerance, and the wonderful legacy is they'll do that for their own partner and their own kids. This is why I'm so adamant about what I do. Why I'm
Yes.
dedicated to this for like 40 years, because it's so necessary, you know. It's truly one of the most important parts of raising children and getting along with your partner too, if you think about it, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, partners need to define words the same way. Partners need to understand what they regress to. Partners needs to know how to empty each other out, be a soothing presence for one another. Then
Yeah.
you can have a soothing presence in your home. See, it all comes together. If you want to break the pattern of neglect or whatever it might be, that's how you do it.
Yes.
This is a different thing completely. You see, now
Yes.
I'm giving you my nickel tour of
It
this
was a
whole
nice,
process that we're talking about.
yes, it was a lovely, nice tour that you gave us because every question that we had that we was going to ask you, you actually answered them all,
Did I?
because
Oh,
yes, because
good.
we was going to say, can you walk us through fill up and empty out? You did that, and
Okay.
so
Okay.
the some, things that we had questions, you was like, I was like, you was on it.
Thank
So
you. Thank you.
yes, and it was a nice, awesome, it was awesome to have you on the show. Sorry about the
Thank you.
technical difficulties, but that's why he had me here as a co-host because he know that I'm gonna keep the show rolling. And
Uh,
we want to,
I feel bad for
yes,
Alfonso. We had a good conversation before, but
hmm,
technical difficulties. But it's been fun to talk with you, Michelle. So
yeah, but
he loses.
that
He
we
loses out.
we want to thank you for being here. Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
and taking time out your busy schedule to come and be with us on Terror to Trump. You know, and we always tell our people it's a beautiful thing. You all are beautiful. In your own way because that's what we try to do. We try to specialize in childhood trauma and get to the bottom of it. And we know that
Mm.
different people have gone through different experiences. And everybody's
Yes.
experience is different. So, my experience is not your experience is not my experience, and it's so on and so
Hmm.
Al, he have his own, experience. So it's to get to the bottom line and let people know it's many different things out there, that you can go through, like you explained a lot, like, what is what parenting tools are, how to come at your kids, except punishing them, saying taking stuff away or whatever, how to meet your kids on a level. So you being on the show, it teaches parents how to come at their kids in a better way, instead of taking things away and thinking that that's the way to parent, because that's what we were taught. We got things taken away from us, or we got a little pat, we got them little 3, 4 pops or whatever. We got the little whooping. It just depends on the different parents what they did. But today's youth is very different from how baby boomers and Gen X were raised. So this next set of group
It's true.
people that are under us, they're on a whole different ball game.
They're
So,
under a lot of different stresses that we're not.
hmm so, how do just all around, how do you feel about, everything, just summing it all up, with the parent and the childhood trauma, everything, summing it up.
Well, summing it up is this, the things that we talked about in the show,
Hmm.
all children need. All children need this. All right.
Hmm.
Generation, generation, generation. Well, we're talking about a soothing presence and developing emotional language and resilience and stress tolerance and, emptying out all this is human nature. The difference is the stresses that kids are under these days. Social media is a stress. It really is a cyberbullying, all that kind of thing. Pressure that they're under. A lot of school pressure, for instance, achievement-oriented families, for instance, I've had to talk to a lot of parents about, hey, your child should not be in an all-male, sports-oriented college prep school, even though your family's always gone to that school. They're autistic. They need something different than this culture. And I see a lot of teenagers who are very stressed because they got to be, get real straight A's, take advanced placement courses, have the lead in the school play, and be the quarterback on the football team. You know what I mean? No wonder they're coming to see me. You know what I mean? It's silly. It's actually silly. Turn to parents and say, hey, this is your son, your daughter. They don't need this. They need to be able to be social. They need to be able to grow into be their own person and not just meet your expectations. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A great example, and I'll finish with this.
Yeah.
Can I give you one more example, Michelle? Is that
Yes,
okay?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I saw two children. This was many years ago, like 20 years ago. A 10-year-old boy and his 8-year-old sister, and their parents were divorced and always arguing, And he took on the role of the pleaser to protect his younger sister from his parents arguing, right? And I worked with the family and things got somewhat better. And then, it was over, He came back to see me as an adult 15 years later. Now, he was a nice guy, had a good job, smart, he was establishing himself as a young adult. The reason he was coming in to see me is because he was in a relationship with a woman who I guess you could call was high maintenance. I mean, she kept making demands on him and he could never please her.
Wow.
And he felt empty. All right. So Dr. Marcus, well, believe it or not, I still had the notes from when he was 10. Everything goes on the computer these days. And I said, we talked about it. And I said to him after like a couple of sessions, he told me what's going on. I said, do you realize you're playing the same role with this woman as you did with your parents? You're being the pleaser. You're trying to please them. And just like with your parents, it did not work. You see? And he went, oh my goodness, you're right. I'm doing it again. Now, he didn't realize it, but that's what he knew. But the reason he felt empty is because I call it a not me situation. He was playing a role. He couldn't develop him. Now, he was as an adult, finally, but there was this gap. There was this emptiness that he felt.
Wow.
You see? Once he realized this, he got out of that relationship. And I said, good, because really, she sounded really hard to deal with. Found another very kind, soothing woman. Got married. They have a kid now. They have a house now. They're fine. But he didn't realize that he was repeating the same thing over again because it began when he was like 2. You know what I mean? He just never realized it. And his eyes went this big when he realized it. I have to tell you, Michelle, you're right. No wonder I feel this way. See, it ties in with what we've been talking about. The earlier you start, and, the book is directed a lot toward young parents for this reason. Because in what I'm talking about, and you've heard that phrase, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Well, then what I do, an ounce of prevention is worth a ton of cure. Because, all these different things that can get in the way of helping your child to develop emotionally. So there's a lot more. I mean, we could talk about discipline versus punishment. There's all kinds of things that we could still talk about, and especially the how-tos of doing this, I'm giving a little bit of it, but that's what the book's
incredible.
About. That's what it's about.
Yeah. But minus the technical difficulties, we would love to have you back on Terror to Trump, if you don't mind coming back, reappearing, minus the technical difficulties.
I'm creating a platform for the book. That's what you need to do to sell a book these days. And people like yourself, people are asking me back, which is very gratifying. You know,
Yes.
that's why I've done so many of these things, because people say, hey, that guy seems to know something. Let's have him back, that type of thing,
Yes.
which makes me feel good, you know. But it's 40 years of experience. It's 40 years of saying, what's really going on? You know, learning from the people that I've seen. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you can also, while you're here, you can also tell the audience about your book again so that they can go
Okay.
pick up the book. Yes.
Well, the book is in the process of being published. It's not out yet. Okay.
Oh,
The
okay.
book is called Parent RX, Parent Prescription. That's the main title of the book.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that a cool title? My agent thought of it, not me.
Yes.
But anyway, but they can go to my website and see a lot of these podcasts, for instance, where I talk about this and other things. And that is www.parentrx.org.
Yes.
ParentRx, one word. PARENTRX.org. Or they can contact me if they want to consult with me or anything like that. And that's DS Marcus, DSMARCUS, PhD, all one word, DS Marcus, PhD, at parentrx.org. ORG. And they're
Mm-hmm.
welcome to give me a buzz and stuff like that if they want to know more. But I appreciate you having me on the show. I
Yes.
really do. And thank
Yeah.
Alfonso too. He's out there
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. He's
ozone
he's
someplace.
he's as a matter of fact, he's been putting up texts, telling the people,
Oh,
thank you. He been putting up texts in where they can
okay.
reach your book yet. Because soon as you said soon as you said your website, he put it up, and you
Oh,
probably couldn't
great.
see it, but I could see it popping up and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
So
Okay. I didn't
yes.
know.
Yeah, so he's here. It's just that he's not on the screen. So yeah, he put it
Okay.
up, and we thank
Okay.
you
That's
for
great.
being a part of Terror to Trump today. And everybody, thank you for
You're
tuning
welcome.
in to listen to Dr. Marcus speak. And we'll be glad to have him as a host again, being with us on Terror to Trump. And we want to tell everybody thank you. And make sure that if you have anything, in order to pay the bills, go to www.pelsemporium.com and check out the merchandise. Everything counts except for Crystal Corner. So y'all all remember. And then
Mhm.
we broadcast across everything from Buzzsprout to Riverside and YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. So we are on all different platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So we on a lot of different sites. So tune in, and whatever site is closest to you or dear to you, you can find us. And thank you, Dr. Marcus, thank
You're
you for
welcome.
being on Terror to Trump. We want to say
Thanks for
thank you,
having me.
everybody.